Hello everyone. Now let's see offenses and penalties. Now in this chapter you have to mug up a little bit. So this is one of those chapters where I tell people, the students, to mug up. Okay? Because penalties cannot be explained. You have to just remember the offense. What is the offense? What is the nature of the offense? And what is the penalty prescribed for that offense? Okay, so let's start. (122). The first one, where a taxable person who supplies any goods or service or both without issue of invoice or issues an incorrect or false invoice with regard to any such supply. So either you supply goods without invoice, means black marketing, or you issue invoice which is incorrect. Number 2, issues an invoice or bill without supply of goods, the reverse process. You issue invoice or the bill of supply without supply of goods or service, or both in violation of the provisions of the act or rules made thereunder. This is for transferring the GST credit. We had discussed this point earlier. Then third, collects any amount as tax but fails to pay the same to the government beyond the period of 3 months from the date on which such payment becomes due. You collect a tax but you fail to pay to the government. Then collects any tax in contravention of the provisions of this act but fails to pay the same to the government beyond the period of 3 months. Again the same thing. Collects tax in contravention means you are not entitled to collect but still you are collecting it, and you have not paid it to the government within 3 months. Then fails to deduct the tax in accordance with provisions of section 51, or deducts an amount which is less than the amount required to be deducted, or where he fails to pay the same to the government. After deduction he doesn't pay to the government. Similarly, fails to collect tax at source under section 52, we had seen ECO, or collects at a lesser rate, or after collecting fails to pay. Then takes or utilizes input tax credit without actual receipt of goods or service. You have not received goods or service, you have just purchased some invoices and you have taken the credit in contravention of the act and the rules. Then fraudulently obtains refund of tax under this act, or takes or distributes input tax credit in contravention of section 20, means ISD. This is for the ISD, input service distributor. Distributes credit in contravention of section 20. Or falsifies or substitutes financial records. Falsifies means you have made false entries in the financial records, or produces fake accounts or documents, or furnishes any false information or return with an intention to evade the payment of tax, or is liable to be registered under the act but fails to obtain registration, or furnishes any false information with regard to registration particulars either at the time of applying for registration or subsequently. Obstructs or prevents any officer in discharge of his duties. Transports any goods without cover of documents, that is without the e-way bill and the invoice. So transporter is also covered here. Then suppresses his turnover leading to evasion of tax. Fails to keep, maintain or retain books of accounts and other documents in accordance with provisions of the act. Fails to furnish information or documents called for by the officer in accordance with provisions of the act or rules made thereunder, or furnishes false information or documents. Long list. Supplies, transports or stores any goods which he has reason to believe are liable to confiscation, means they are not duty paid goods. Then issues any invoice or document by using registration number of another person or tampers with, destroys any material evidence or document, or disposes of or tampers with any goods that have been detained, seized or attached under this act. My goodness, long list of offences. Now let's see what is the penalty. he shall be liable to penalty equal to 10,000 rupees or the amount equal to the tax evaded or the tax not deducted or short deducted or not collected or short collected or not paid to government, or the input tax credit availed or passed on or distributed irregularly or the refund claimed fraudulently, whichever is higher. Means basically the default amount, whatever amount you have defaulted, whatever amount you have evaded or passed on illegally. So the amount equal to 100%, so it means 100% of tax evasion, or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher, that is the penalty, whichever is higher. So if you do a fraud of 6,000, you have to pay a penalty of 10,000. Hence it will not be of any use. So at least you should do fraud of 10,000 rupees, so that even if the penalty is levied, you are happy with that. So okay, there is justification. We had done a fraud of 3 lakhs, we are liable to penalty of 3 lakhs in percentage terms. Then subsection 2 says, any registered person who supplies any goods or service or both on which any tax has not been paid or short paid or erroneously refunded, or where the input tax credit has been wrongly availed or utilized for any reason other than reason of fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of facts, then liable to penalty of 10,000 rupees or 10% of the tax due from such person, whichever is higher. So this is error omission case. So if you have you have not paid the tax, but due to error omission, then the penalty is 10,000 rupees or 10% of the tax due. This is similar to section 73. Remember? And B point says for reason of fraud. If it is by reason of fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade tax, then the penalty would be 10,000 rupees or the tax due from such person, whichever is higher, means 100% of tax due. So this is like 74. Remember 73 and 74? Yes. Then subsection 3 says, any person who aids or abets any of the offence under the clauses of subsection 1, all those clauses of subsection 1. Aids or abets means chartered accountant will be covered here, who helps the assessee in committing those offences. Aids or abets. Acquires possession of or in any way concerns himself with transporting, removing, depositing, keeping, concealing, supplying or purchasing in any other manner, deals with any goods which he knows or has reason to believe are liable to confiscation. Means here the transporter will come and the warehouse keeper, WH, warehouse, go down, all those people who know that the goods are liable to confiscation, but still they store the goods, they keep the goods or supply them. Then C, receives in any other way, receives or in any way concerned with the supply of or in any other manner deals with any supply of service which he knows or has reason to believe are in contravention of provisions of the Act or the rules made thereunder. Even the receiver of service who knows that the service is in contravention will be liable for penalty. Then fails to appear before the officer of central tax when issued with a summon. You are called upon but you don't go there, or you don't produce the documents which are required in inquiry, or fails to issue invoice in accordance with the provisions of the Act or the rules made thereunder, or fails to account for an invoice in his books of accounts, shall be liable to penalty which may extend to 25,000 rupees. Then in the rule 162, one point is given, compounding of offences. There is a concept of compounding. Compounding means you can pay up a fine and get out. So that is given there, but no need to read it because it is actually for prosecution. That is for jail. Whenever there is a jail term, then you apply for compounding. so don't read it here. Then the whole analysis of section 122 is given there, which you can read once. Then coming to 123, penalty for failure to furnish information return. If a person is required to furnish an information return under section 150, this information return is like that income tax information return. People who undertake heavy transactions have to report those transactions. So if you fail to do that, then though we have not studied section 150 right now, we'll study it later on in the last point, the miscellaneous chapter. Fails to do so, the prescribed authority shall direct him to pay a penalty for 100 rupees per day. Penalty is 100 rupees per day, for which the default continues, and it shall not exceed 5,000 rupees, means maximum will be 5,000. Then failure to furnish statistics, this also we'll see later on section 151. You'll understand that. Just underline the penalty here. May extend to 10,000 rupees, and in case of a continuing offence, further fine of 100 rupees per day, subject to a maximum of 25,000 rupees. So 10,000 for the first day plus 100 rupees per day, but this whole will be less than or equal to 25,000. Then general penalties there 125, that if there is no separate penalty provided for some offence, but you have committed the offence but there is no separate penalty, then it may extend to 25,000 rupees. Then 126 says general disciplines relating to penalty. No officer under this act shall impose any penalty for minor breaches of tax regulations or procedural requirements, and in particular any omission or mistake in documentation which is easily rectifiable and made without fraudulent intent or gross negligence. So this is a relaxation, that if somebody has honestly made some mistake, and that too procedural or regulatory mistakes, not lawful mistakes, not violation of law, but violation of regulations and procedures, then that can be condoned. Don't charge penalties. So don't impose penalties on every minor breach which can be easily rectified. And what is a minor breach? So that is given in the explanation. Breach shall be considered as minor if the amount of tax involved is less than 5,000 rupees. Then it is considered as a minor breach. And omission or mistake in documentation shall be considered to be easily rectifiable if the same is an error apparent on the face of record. Apparent on the face of record means it is a definite mistake which is visible on the record itself. It is not something hidden. It is visible. Then the penalty imposed under this act shall depend on the facts and circumstances of each case and shall be commensurate with the degree and severity of the breach. So whenever they say up to 25,000, so that doesn't mean that every offence will be charged with 25,000. How much to charge will depend upon the degree and severity of the breach. If it is of the highest degree and severity, then full 25,000. Otherwise, lesser amount can be charged. Then no penalty can be charged without giving him a reasonable opportunity of being heard. This is principle of natural justice. Reasonable opportunity has to be given. Then the officer under this act, while imposing penalty in an order for a breach of law, regulation or procedural requirements, specify the nature of breach and applicable law, regulation or procedure under which the amount of penalty has been specified. So when the notice is given to you, the notice must mention what you have violated, under what section, and what is the penalty leviable and under which section. And where a person voluntarily discloses to an officer under this act the circumstances of a breach of tax law, regulation or procedure requirement prior to discovery of breach by the officer under this act, the officer may consider this fact as a mitigating factor when quantifying a penalty for that person. So this has to be taken into consideration for basically reducing the penalty. because he has come and voluntarily disclosed. So lesser penalty. And the provisions of the section shall not apply in such cases where the penalty specified under the Act is either a fixed sum or expressed as a fixed percentage. If the penalty is fixed, then there is no question of reduction, so this section doesn't apply. This section applies only when there is a scope of reduction. That is when it is mentioned as up to 25,000. Up to, that up to means there is a scope of reduction. Then power to impose penalty in certain cases. Where the proper officer is of the view that a person is liable to penalty and the same is not covered under any proceedings under section 62, 63, 64, 73, 74, 129 or 130, he may issue an order levying such penalty after giving a reasonable opportunity of being heard to such person. So, and these sections are mentioned there for your reference purpose. Forget it. Then power to waive penalty or fee or both. The government may by notification waive or in part or full any penalty referred to under these sections on a or any late fee referred to under 47 for such class of taxpayers and under such mitigating circumstances as may be specified therein on recommendation of the council. So government has the right to reduce the penalty for any class of taxpayers. Then 129. This may come in the exam. Detention, seizure and release of goods and conveyances in transit. Notwithstanding anything contained in the Act where any person transports any goods or stores any goods while they are in transit in contravention of provision of this Act or the rules made thereunder, all such goods and the conveyance itself, the truck, used as a means of transport for carrying such goods and documents relating to such goods and conveyance shall be liable to detention. The RC book, the registration copy of the vehicle, etc. will all be confiscated. So shall be liable to detention or seizure, and after detention or seizure shall be released on payment of the applicable tax and penalty equal to 100% of the tax payable on such goods, and in case of exempted goods on payment of amount equal to 2% of the value of goods. So in case of exempted goods, as there is no tax, so you will say there is no penalty. So government says, wait, we have done all this process, so pay 2% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less, where the owner of the goods comes forward for payment of such tax and penalty. Then B point says on payment of applicable tax and penalty equal to 50% of value of the goods. 50% of tax nahi, 50% of value of the goods. Here it is 100% of tax. Here it is 50% of value of the goods. So for example, the value, say for example, the value is 1 lakh. Tax will be 18,000 even at 18%. So here the penalty will be 18,000. Here the penalty will be 50% of 1 lakh means 50,000. So this is more penalty, huh? Don't compare this 150. Then you will feel, oh, the penalty is less. No. This is 50% of value. Okay? Of the goods, reduced by the tax amount paid thereon. So this value is excluding tax. Okay? And in case of exempted goods, on payment of amount equal to 5% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less. So for exempt goods, it will be 5% instead of 2%. So here it was 2%, here it is 5% of the value of the goods, or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less, where the owner of goods does not come forward for payment of such tax and penalty. So where he came forward, then it was less. Where he does not come forward, then it is more. And third point, upon furnishing a security equal to the amount payable under A or B in such form and manner as may be prescribed. So third thing is that if he doesn't have money to pay the penalty right now, he can give a security. Security will be equal to the amount payable under A or B. So he will give, say, bank guarantee or some kind of security and release the goods. Provided that no such goods or conveyance shall be detained or seized without serving an order of detention or seizure on the person transporting the goods. Means they have to first serve an order of detention or seizure. That is a technical requirement. Then the provisions of subsection 6 of 67 shall mutatis mutandis apply for detention and seizure of goods and conveyances. We had seen that in the earlier chapter. And the proper officer detaining or seizing goods or conveyances shall issue a notice specifying the tax and penalty payable, and thereafter pass an order for payment of tax and penalty under A or B or C. No tax, interest or penalty shall be determined under 3 without giving opportunity of being heard, obviously. And on payment of the amount specified under 1, all proceedings in respect of the notice shall be deemed to be concluded. If he pays the amount mentioned in the notice, then all proceedings are deemed to be finished. Then subsection 6 says that where the person transporting any goods or the owner of the goods fails to pay the amount of tax and penalty as provided in subsection 1 within 14 days of such detention or seizure, further proceedings shall be initiated in accordance with provisions of section 130. So the time is 14 days. If you don't pay within 14 days, then as we'll see in section 130, further proceedings will be initiated. Provided that whether retained or seized goods are perishable or hazardous in nature or are likely to depreciate in value with passage of time, the said period of 7 days may be reduced by the proper officer. Simple. Then comes 130, confiscation of goods and or conveyance and levy of penalty. Notwithstanding anything contained in this act, if any person supplies or receives any goods in contravention of any provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder with intent to evade the payment of tax, does not account for any goods which he is liable to pay tax, or supplies any goods liable to tax under the act without having applied for registration, he makes supplies, or contravenes any provision of the act or rules made thereunder with intent to evade the payment of tax, or uses any conveyance as a means of transport for carriage of taxable goods in contravention of the provisions of the act or rules made thereunder, unless the owner of the conveyance proves that it was used without the knowledge or connivance of the owner himself, his agent, if any, and the person in charge of the conveyance, then all such goods or conveyance shall be liable to confiscation, and the person shall be liable to penalty under section 122 that we saw. So penalty will be imposed under 122, and the goods and the conveyance also will be liable for confiscation. Now goods will always be confiscated. Conveyance, if belonging to the person himself, then it will be confiscated. If belonging to another person and that owner doesn't know that his conveyance is being used by this person for contravention, then it will not be confiscated, then it will be given to him. But if that owner is also involved in the fraud, then the conveyance will be confiscated. Then where confiscation of the goods is authorized by the act, the officer adjudging it shall give the owner of the goods an option to pay fine in lieu of confiscation. So here it is, fine in lieu of confiscation, and the rule for this was given in the start. So you pick up from there and put it here, okay. Provided that such fine shall not exceed the market value of the goods confiscated, less the tax chargeable thereon. If the market value of the goods is say 36,000 and the tax is say at the rate of 10%, 3,600, so the balance comes to 32,400, right? So total fine in lieu of confiscation can be 32,400, not more than that. In fact, it will be much less. Otherwise, why would the person come to pay fine in lieu of confiscation? Keep the goods, he will say. Why should I pay fine? I should pay fine which is equal to market value and take the goods. So what is the value of goods then? So he doesn't want the goods. He said keep it. So fine would be something less, like 4,000, 5,000, 10,000. Okay. Then provided further that the aggregate of such fine and penalty leviable shall not be less than the amount of penalty leviable under subsection 1 of 129 that we saw in the last section, A, B and C. Basically A and B. That is 10% of tax if you disclose it, or 50% of value if you don't disclose. So that should be the minimum fine plus penalty. Then provided also that where any such conveyance is used for the carriage of goods or passengers for hire, the owner of conveyance shall be given an option to pay in lieu of confiscation fine equal to tax payable on the goods being transported thereon. You pay the tax and you take your vehicle. So fine will be equal to tax. Then where any fine in lieu of confiscation of goods or conveyance is imposed under subsection 2, the owner of such goods or conveyance or the person referred to under 1 shall in addition be liable to tax, penalty and charges payable in respect of such goods or conveyance. So fine in lieu of confiscation is not in lieu of tax, it is in addition to tax. So apart from that fine, you will also be liable to pay tax, penalty and other charges. Then no order for confiscation of goods or conveyance or for imposition of penalty shall be issued without giving the person an opportunity of being heard. Principle of natural justice. Where any goods or conveyance are confiscated under the Act, the title of such goods or conveyance shall thereupon vest in the government. See, the implication of confiscation is that the ownership gets transferred to the government. Then the proper officer adjudging the confiscation shall take and hold possession of the things confiscated, and every officer of police on the requisition of such officer shall assist him in taking and holding such possession. So he can call the police officers as well. And the proper officer may, after satisfying himself that the confiscated goods and conveyance are not required in any other proceeding under this Act, and after giving reasonable time not exceeding 3 months to pay fine in lieu of confiscation, dispose such goods. So first he will give you the option to pay fine and take your goods. But if you don't even come to pay fine in lieu of confiscation up to 3 months, then he will dispose of the goods and conveyance and deposit the sale proceeds with the government. Okay, the whole sale proceeds will go to the government. Then 131 says confiscation or penalty not to interfere with other punishments. There are several punishments under the Act. One is fine, one is penalty, then there can be prosecution also, and there can be this and there can be that. So here it is given that all the proceedings will run concurrently for the same offence, and the assessee cannot say in the court that my lord, they have imposed fine on me and they have imposed penalty also and now they are prosecuting me also. Court will say yes, everything will run concurrently. So you can be penalized under several sections for the same offence. So it says, without prejudice to the provisions of Code of Criminal Procedure, no confiscation made or penalty imposed under the provisions of this Act or the rules made thereunder shall prevent, no confiscation shall prevent the infliction of any other punishment to which the person affected thereby is liable under the provisions of this Act or under any other law for the time being in force. Means all punishments will be done concurrently. Then punishment for certain offences, 132. So again the whole list is given. I will not again go through the whole list, this you can go through. It is the same type of list. All the points, and then it says shall be punishable. Shall be punishable. This we'll see. In case where the amount of tax evaded or the amount of input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized or the amount of refund wrongly taken is more than 500 lakh rupees, if the fraud is of more than 500 lakh rupees, then the imprisonment can be granted for a term which may extend to 5 years and with fine. So this is the maximum. Maximum imprisonment will be 5 years of jail and with fine. And in the third column is given whether the offence are cognizable and bailable nature. Cognizable means, can the officer take cognizance of the case by himself, means does he have the power to take cognizance. If it is cognizable, that is one part, and second is whether it is bailable or not. Can you file a bail application and get released from imprisonment? That is called as bailable. We say a person is released on bail. So here it says that offences under subsection 1 A, B, C, D are cognizable and non-bailable. So cognizable means the officer can take cognizance of the case and arrest you, and they are not bailable. Now remember this point, the offences which are cognizable are not bailable, and the offences which are not cognizable are bailable. So it says any other offence is non-cognizable and bailable. Then if it is more than 200 lakh rupees but less than 500 lakhs, then the imprisonment will be up to 3 years and with fine, and in that case all the offences are non-cognizable and bailable. Then if it is more than 100 lakhs but up to 200 lakhs, less than 200 lakhs, then 1 year with fine, non-cognizable and bailable. Every offence is non-cognizable and bailable. And in cases where he commits or abets the commission of an offence specified in clause F or G or J, F, G or J, that we'll read, then 6 months or with fine or with both, and it is also non-cognizable and bailable. So the cognizable nature of the offence comes only if the tax evasion exceeds 500 lakhs, and that too only the first 4 clauses A, B, C and D. They become cognizable and non-bailable. And second point says that if, where any person convicted for an offence under this section is again convicted for the second time or third time or fourth time, then he shall be punishable for the second and for every subsequent offence with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 5 years and with fine, irrespective of the amount of tax evasion. And the imprisonment referred to in clause 1, 2, 3 of subsection 1 and subsection 2 shall, in the absence of special and adequate reasons to be contrary be a term for not less than 6 months. And a person shall not be prosecuted for any offence under this section except with the previous sanction of the commissioner. Commissioner's sanction is required. Explanation is of no use. Then 133, liability of officers and certain other persons, that where any person engaged in connection with the collection of statistics under section 151 or compilation of computerization thereof, or if any officer of central tax having access to information specified under 150 subsection 1, or if any person engaged in connection with provision of service on the common portal or the agent of the common portal, means basically all the types of government authorities which are involved in this act, okay, willfully discloses any information or the contents of any return furnished under this act or the rules made thereunder, otherwise than in execution of his duties under the said sections, or for the purpose of prosecution for any offence under the act, he shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 25,000 rupees, or with both. So this is for the government officers. If they disclose, willfully disclose any information about any assessee, about his return, about his financials, etc., then he will be liable for 6 months imprisonment and 25,000 rupees of fine, or both. and you require previous sanction of the government for this prosecution. And one who is not a government servant shall not be prosecuted for any offence under this act except with the previous sanction of the commissioner. So for government servants you require government sanction, and for others you require sanction from the commissioner. Then cognizance of offence, section 134 is given, that is of no use. Presumption of culpable mental state, no use. It only says that everyone who is caught here will be deemed to be of culpable mental state, because that is a primary requirement for prosecution. So it is deemed that you have culpable mental state. Culpable mental state means जानबूझ के करना, ऐसा हम कहते हैं ना, जानबूझ कर, यानी you did it for a purpose. You did tax evasion with intent, full intent of tax evasion. So like simple sections are there. And relevancy of statements under certain circumstances. This is relevancy of statements. Whatever documents are found in your possession are deemed to be true, and whatever you have written, if it is found that you have written in something in your handwriting, it is deemed to be correct, and it is deemed to be written by you. And lastly, offences by companies is given. In case of company, the company cannot be put behind bars, so it is the directors, the managers, whoever is concerned with the management of the company, they will be prosecuted. But if they prove that the offence was not committed by them but by their subordinates, and they had no knowledge of the offence, they had not connived in the offence, then they can be saved. This you have to read it once. These are similar to Income Tax Act and all other acts. And then compounding of offence is there, 138. You can compound your offence, means again pay fine and get released from prison. So that is called as compounding. Just simple points. No question will come on these points. So that's the last section, 138. Just go through it once.